name's Amy Farris. I'm an instructor here in the art department at Brookdale and coordinator of the Brookdale Visiting Artist Program. What you are about to watch is an interview with Martin Kammler, our first visiting artist, who came to Brookdale to conduct a workshop for students and to give a public lecture on his work and process. During this interview, I asked Martin questions about his first experiences in New York City, his early relationships to mentors, what advice he might have for students, what he felt he learned from the workshop, and what he felt the students learned.
How I started, basically I own my own personal training business. So I was exclusively support in giving apartment buildings the ability to hire me as a personal trainer. But I was so busy and so early in the morning, late in the evening, it was hard for me to go to school, but I was able to paint. And then once I had enough clients and I made my money, I was able to paint a little bit more and train a little bit less, and paint a little bit more and train a little bit less. And that was, I think that was helpful to know that you have some financial background, because I think it's very difficult to support yourself as an artist. Every artist will know that's very hard, and it takes just a long time. So for me to know that it's going to take a long time, a couple of people told me, look, it's going to take some time in some galleries in Soho. And so I did a little research and just talked to them and said, hey, what does it take to become an artist? What does it take to become successful? And for them, there was like a 10-year time frame, or so they were very just take your time. And that's what I'm trying to do, step by step. I started in New York City. Basically, what happened is I fall in love with a dancer, singer, actor, and she was basically injured, and I was working at that time in a rehabilitation center, and that's how I got to know her. And then we spent a couple of years in Germany, and then she wanted to go back to the States, and I was like, you know what? I can do that. So basically, I quit my job. I sold my windsurfing car. At that time, I was not into kite surfing. I was into windsurfing. And I decided, look, you always had that feeling, Barcelona or New York, and it was rough. I came over at the time when September 11 happened. Oh. So I came over 2001 in May, and then it was just hard. I didn't have a working permission. It was really a tough thing. Basically, I was terrible in English in school. But what happened was, once I fall in love, I started to learn, I watched movies, and that was really helpful. It was maybe the most powerful thing for me, to change. And I started to learn English, but it was still a little different than hopefully the level I have right now. So when I came over here, not only language, but you miss your friends, but I was always and that's why I'm here. I was always into art. So what happens, art helped me to survive, because then I went to the New York Art League School, and I was like, wow, I get so much input, there's so much I can learn. And beside the sport part where I had my education from, I was able to to study on a different level that everything had to do with art. So the art and the sport in combination was was very cool. So you too, I would, because your painting is so wild, it's a lot of smart. So you have to make sure that this and this and this shape, that they are very quiet. So maybe you use, I don't know, maybe it's white or gray. You use one black and then make that white and that maybe black, and this one a little bit grayish, or add a little bit of blue. Mine blue because you have some blue here. Mm-hmm. So it might be interesting. Maybe you put that whole thing blue, but make it a lighter blue, and then see but there's a lot of stuff going on. So see how you connect them later. Okay. No, but it's interesting, because look, you have all the canvas around, and the whole painting would be canvas, but because now you have the quiet spots, you can rethink a little bit. Yeah. No? You can say, okay, so what makes sense, but it's interesting, because I think I would use some blue there and some white. You can always later drip a little bit white on top of them and connect the three shapes if you make them white or black. You just drip a little bit, but softer. You have to be a little bit more careful now. Now comes the point where you have to be a tiny little bit more careful with the painting, because When I look back to my old paintings, and they're at my parents' house or at my brother's home, and you're like, oh wow, that's how I started it. So it's quite amazing. And then at the New York Art League School, I was lucky that Frank O'Kane helped me to develop my own style. And the way he teaches, or the way he taught me, was always like, just do it, like just get comfortable, learn something about movements and shapes, do something with black and white. And so now when I'm teaching, I'm trying to transfer a little bit that experience to the new students, just to say like, hey, you know what, it's abstract, it's okay, you don't have to know the outcome, and it's all right, just get your skills and then see if you can be a better abstract painter, but there's no real right or wrong. So it helped me a lot. Frank O'Kane was like the guy in New York City who helped me. Relax, look, and think. I think for most of the time, I think artists feel like they have to paint every day. I'm not painting every day. I paint when I feel I should paint. And that's something, it took me years to understand that if you cannot paint right now, then don't paint. Today when we were painting some of the stuff we did together, I could feel that I had to do something, but I didn't see it at that moment. So I did not just put color on just because I felt like there has to be some color on. And I think that's something for an artist who is a little bit younger and is trying to become an artist. It's not easy to say, look, I have to relax. I take my time. I don't have to be perfect now. I can, I have my years. That's the reason why I said relax, look, and think, because sometimes I don't paint. I have it, right now I'm lucky I have my paintings in my apartment in Germany. So I can wake up, I have my coffee, and I just sometimes look, and sometimes I don't see something, and sometimes I see something, and then I have to take my gloves on and I start painting, and I might paint for a couple of hours, but I don't paint all the time. And it's also, if I see that I don't see something on a painting, then I just put it away. I don't paint only because I think I have to. I feel like when you're doing art, it's something that comes from the inside, So doing abstract art, it's not easy because you have to open up your inside. You have to trust, and you have the instinct and trust yourself that what you're doing on canvas is something that's different than painting a tree or like a landscape or like a still life. And so for me, I think as more experience you get from traveling and believing in yourself and going through ups and downs, and also like the sports and the nature. So I think it all ends up to something where you trust yourself. So when you're doing the abstract art, that you're open to that you're open to express yourself the way you want. But it took me a little bit time, but I think it's important for every artist to understand it's not going to be it's not going to be the direct outcome, and you're like, okay, that now I'm going to be perfect in abstract painting. So I think as you grow as a person and as you get more and more information from the people before and around, then it's better your art is going to be. So that when I was trying to teach that too, looking at the old artists, I try to learn from them because they went through the same thing. So I think every artist went through the same struggle. So you just have to see that it's okay to take your time and learn from all kind of sources. When you start when you start feeling the shapes, of course, you're gonna touch the other colors a little bit, but that's okay. There's no rule against it. It's just you have that quiet space, and now you connect it a little bit to the other shapes. And sometimes maybe you touch the other colors, you mix it a little bit on the canvas. Good. Good. Not too equal. That's it. Now, because look, if you add more and more and more, then it becomes too easy for the eye. Like now, all the white dots have to be connected. So that's I would not put much more white on. Or you say, okay, I do one shape white, but I think with that painting right now, I don't know. I think that's enough. Feels like, yeah. Would you say more? You can?
No, my idea was just to loop it around this way, which I did.
Connect it to the other.
Yeah, but the eye is going to connect it. So you don't have to connect it.
Yeah.
In our reality, your eyes is going to put the white over here and it's going to go around here. So even if I feel like it could use some white maybe there, underline the black a little bit and see how that feels.
Right.
Just, play around a little bit.
You want to give that a try?
At one point, if you have that much green in the middle, it has to be its other parts to it, because your eye cannot it's just in the center. It's going to be like this. No, but it doesn't have to be a lot, but maybe
Like down there, there's
for example,
to the brown.
Yeah. just a little, but you cannot just have it in the center because now you put more colors around. I don't know, it looks like if it's maybe a little bit too much in the center, but yeah. But now once you fill out the shapes, but it could be also white. It doesn't have to.
If we put more color on the green.
It doesn't help. Yeah. But because, yeah, so maybe you start with filling out the top white and then you fill out this white here and then you see how it feels.
Okay.
So fill that whole shape, everything that's white or everything that's canvas, I would fill out white.
Okay.
And then this one here white too, and then you see how it feels.
Okay. And then
And some of the red is on top now, so that's...
It's popped out. It's come forward for sure. To see it.
Maybe we do it this way. Because it's also interesting sometimes just to do something, just to break it up by using... Because then at least the eye, sees something round there, and there's something here. And so like you could make, I know at first it's like this, but because there's so much action going on, so maybe you have a spot where it's like...
A little less.
Yeah, and then what you could do is like, I use... Yeah, like this. Because then you always know you're going to have a little bit of this on top here. And then all of a sudden you can come, because this one is always deep. But of course, like it's not easy for me like to... Yeah, because if not, the shape is just going to be too ice, too. Yeah.
Then you do it from there.
And you can use some of the black and you just outline some of them. Maybe you do that a little bit black. Just be careful because black has,
It's heavy.
Yes, that's a good way of. But of course now it's not easy because 4 people are painting at the same painting, but you have to see so now you have to work more delicate, no? It's good. It has a lot of, no? And maybe the blue is so intense. I would tiny little bit of blue, get the blue up a little bit again too, just a little bit, because here it is, just this, so that you connect this purple and blue on top here, and then. Yeah, I would use...
Like separated.
Yeah, but I would take the blue, make it very wet, and just go around a little bit and make it sound soft and... What I just saw here is like sometimes when you put a shape on... Give me that for a second. When you put a shape on something, you cannot just have it on there because it's going to be disconnected to what's under it. So you have to find a way that this color comes a little bit on top of this one. So it has to be something, with different layers. So you can, I don't know, but you could say, okay, I do this. In this way, the whole energy of the painting here, I did before, I scratched a little bit into it, but not too much because I don't want that orange is completely on the white. So I want to give the white space to breathe, but I also had to connect a little bit this part. And now it's like, if you do this. So now it's like, it's not so dominant, and this one is not so far behind the white because it gets a little bit on it. So you have to do something very similar here.
No rules.
Exactly, there are no rules. Man, okay, I've done it so often that I know, like out of experience, how I do it. But basically, there are no rules, man. But this is a rule. Like, you see right now, that shape goes a little, but.
Gotcha. And you want the white green.
Yeah, but look, for example, if you have the.
Oh, sorry.
There's white, Janne. But if you have the white covered here, you have to make sure that maybe a little bit of white goes on top here. Now, because if not, then you push that so far down by putting some orange on here.
You don't want everything.
Yeah, and that's correct. And because you use the red, man, there has to be some red. No? If not, there's some red missing. But look, you have some red here. But I don't know. Maybe it's hard for me not to. But you see, now it becomes more like, and then you use that blue again. Exactly. You can also, because you don't have any black, you could also use a little bit of.
We have a little bit.
Yeah, so what I learned today was like, it's not easy for somebody to jump over their own level of confidence to just open up a little bit and paint in a different way. But because everybody was painting, it felt like, you know, they looked around, they're like, okay, I can splash the color, okay, I can do that. So everybody opened up. But I thought that was very nice. For me, like, it was a great experience to see that you have a chance to teach somebody to just be a little bit more loose and don't think that the outcome is already there. It's like, you know, the outcome is going to be something that's going to happening when you do the process and when you approach the painting and you go around, you walk around. So it was nice to see how they changed a little bit the way they, I think about abstract art. So like, hopefully, like, maybe they also go home and say, like, you know what, yes, I can do it, I just have to practice a little bit. I picked up a couple of things, and I heard that from some people, like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna try to maybe to do it. And that's a nice thing for me, like, yeah, because I just have, and I just have developed it, and it's also the way I am. But to see somebody who is like painting at first tiny little things, and then all of a sudden he starts splashing and painting bigger strokes, that was a nice thing for me. It's not so easy, like, to paint with 3 or 4 people on one painting. Normally it's you by yourself, but so it's even more challenging because you don't know what the other person wants to do. Because he's just said that, he said, man, there's so much color on. Yeah, normally, like, you're not painting with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people on one painting, and maybe you take yourself, you know, you do a little bit slower. But of course, if you don't wait, then one color on the other color becomes like muddy and it becomes gray. So that's why you, even with acrylic, you know, when you slow down, it just takes a little bit of time before you see what is maybe the next step. So right now I was thinking, should I put some red on? And I couldn't really see what I should put on. So I'm waiting a little bit, but maybe red is not the right color. And then I took the red away and I just put a little bit of red on. So sometimes you see something, it doesn't have to be right. So then you step back and you look. But it looks great. I saw that some people are like, you know, oh God, you know, why is he doing this? I heard somebody saying, oh my God, Martin, he just painted over my lovely corner. But I think it's also sometimes that's what I have to do. Like, I cannot just always say, okay, everything I did was perfect. So I have to give up to gain something in the painting. So I think it was a great experience for all of them to say, yeah, maybe it's not right what I'm doing. Maybe somebody has a different opinion. So why not to be a little bit more flexible and more open? And I think that has a lot to do with approaching the canvas. And I'm open to what I do, but so I can see why they were struggling a little bit to have like 4 people on one painting today. But I think, so that's also like something they learned. I learned, and I would do it again, yes. It was a little bit challenging when people are painting in your painting and you don't know what they're going to do because they don't have the same structure you think the painting should have. But it was a very good experience. And I think they had a great time too. It took us a while to get me over here. So at first, thanks to Amy that this workshop happened. No, because it's like, you know, it's a lot of energy getting all the material and talking to me, like, how do you want to do that? What can we do? Like, set up the evening presentation too. So it's a lot of work, and thanks to Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
And then thank you all for creating all this wonderful art. So hopefully, like, you got an idea, like, when you work abstract, that all the stuff I said in the presentation, it's something that as more you do it, as more you feel, oh yeah, a little bit there, a little bit here. Man, when we started with that big green shape there, it was clear that when you put something in the center and it's so powerful, you're going to have to deal with that to the rest of your painting, or you just have to overpaint it. So it's interesting to see how the different paintings came out. And sometimes what I would do right now would be I would just rest and wait and let it dry and then put it on a wall, because it looks different if you have a painting laying on the ground or you have it hanging on the wall. So now what I would do is the next step would be like, you have to hang them on a wall, look at them, and then maybe you paint on the wall a little bit, and then step by step you finalize your painting. Thanks for coming, and thanks for doing all the art.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's quite interesting because like a couple of years ago when I was showing my art the first time in Germany, most of my friends were like, wait a minute, you know, like you're painting now, like, so because I didn't really talk about it like openly all the time, because it's something I was more like a non-professional artist. So once I became a more and more professional, I thought, okay, now it's my first show in Germany. So a lot of people showed up, and a lot of people were surprised that, you know, I had this passion and I moved it on into my career. I would make a decision to say, okay, that shape completely white, this shape completely white, but maybe this shape completely black.
Most of my images are very straightforward, so this was very nice and abstract and just dealing with shapes and colors instead of individual objects that you're trying to create. So it was something totally new. I have very little experience in paint, so this was also a good experience getting my hands in the paint.
And then hers.
So I would circle that. I would maybe circle that shape.
Okay.
And circle here, and then.
Yeah, I like that.
It's definitely nice to have the different perspective from somebody else who's working in a different way than, say, your instructor necessarily is, and in a different medium, or just in a completely different way, and their inspirations for how they work is different too.
Let it run around a little bit, because her white there has to be connected to the other. Yep.
I'll definitely let everybody else know to come out and try different workshops, and whenever there's a visiting artist, I think for art students and non-art students alike, it's important. You know, everybody's creative in their own way.